If you have something to say, something to sell, or something significant to do, you've got to increase your influence, and that is what this channel is here for. Stay to the end because I have a free assessment where you can measure your influence, and I'll tell you how to get that at the end of the video. Hey, Drew here with Influence Trainer YouTube channel, and I am honored to have my good friend, my mastermind group partner, Don Gleason here, and retired Colonel Don Gleason, and we are going to talk about servanthood and servant leadership. As many of you know who have downloaded my influence quotient worksheet so you can rate your influence, you know that on that worksheet there's a spot there for servanthood. And servanthood is one of the qualities of an influential person. And Don really embodies what it means to serve and to be a servant leader. And so I wanted to have him on the channel here so we can interview him, hear more about what it means to be a servant leader and how we do that. Real quick, I want to give my definition of what it is, what servanthood is, and then we're going to jump into servant leadership with Don, hear a little bit more about his story, and he's going to answer some questions for us. So I've defined servanthood as the ability to humble yourself and serve others. And so with that, Don, I want to introduce you. Knowing you for over a year now. We've been doing that mastermind, yeah?
We have, yeah.
And so I've recognized through your 27-year career in the military, retired colonel in the military, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. That's service to your country. But if you just go on your LinkedIn profile, all throughout your entire career, you've served, whether it's with wounded warriors, throughout your career, or different veterans transition projects that you work on. I think you're launching a new mastermind in the near future, and we can talk more about that. But also with the Red Cross, you're a board member for your local Red Cross.
Board chair now.
Board chair, yes, that's right. And so you're helping really develop that leadership team. So servant leadership is not. It's not something that is in a dictionary for you. It's not a definition. It's something that you've really embodied your entire career. Share with us, why did you join the military? How did that happen? Tell us about how you joined the military, the Air Force.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting story because both of my brothers enlisted in the Air Force out of high school. And one taught missile guidance systems, one was a civil engineer, water and waste guy. Both of them served 4 years and got out. And I used to harass them and say, never, ever am I going to join the military. But in 1982, it was I call it the height of the Reagan recession. And maybe I shouldn't blame him, but it was during his first term. Unemployment was well over 20-some%. And for college grads, it was even worse. College graduates who were used to getting 5 and 6 offers were getting 1. I got, in my civil engineering class, only 10% had an offer after 4 months. I was in that 90% that did not have a job offer. So I started looking around at different opportunities. At my graduation party, I had 454 letters standing in the corner. Thanks, but no thanks. We're not hiring right now. We'll keep your resume on file. So it was kind of discouraging, but I was working at the USDA honeybee research lab through the summer. So I had employment. I had just gotten married. We were, between 3 and 6 months of marriage. We got married in March, so this was the summer. And we were making, my wife was working. But I decided, I didn't want to go back and get my master's degree. I wanted to get out and do something. I just couldn't stand more school. So I did a tour down to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, and they showed us around the R&D, research and development side. And then the recruiter calls me up and says, so what do you think? Are you ready? You want to sign up? And I said, well, you really didn't show me what I'm doing. So in August, we went down to Chanute Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois, down by Champaign-Urbana. And I said, I think this is it. So I got home that night. I remember my wife looking at me and said, we can join if we get to go to Germany. And I said, well, we can't go to Germany if we don't join. It's a different way to look at it, right? And she said, okay. So on our 6-month anniversary, I raised my hand and went off to San Antonio for 3 months. And the journey began. I never would have thought that I was going to join the service. And I would have to say at officer training school, I struggled. Came in at weight So I got put on the Fat Boy program and had to work out extra every day for an hour. And instead of permanent press, they gave me cotton fatigues. I got 4 pair instead of 2 pair of permanent press. So I thought, cool, I got 4 pair. I don't have to iron them as much. I spent an hour every night ironing, an hour every night working out, and then I got to do my other work. So it was a challenge, and but I lost 28 pounds while I was there, and then set me on a path that I really enjoyed it. So that's how I got into the service. But God took me on a journey that I never would have imagined, because I got to go to K.I. Sawyer Air Force Base in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and got to do water and waste stuff. And that's where it started in 5th grade. My passion was cleaning up America's waters. The first Earth Day in 1970. And I got to do environmental work in the Air Force, helping to design wastewater treatment plants and working on compliance of discharge into the river. And then we got into, we had underground water contamination, groundwater contamination. I got to lead that project. So I got to do a lot of really neat things.
Yeah.
Just kept on going. I mean, all the way up to when I made Colonel, but I hadn't pinned on yet. This was now in 2004. And I was in Germany, and the tasking came down to go to Baghdad to work the reconstruction program. And they were looking for a colonel. And all the colonels that I was around said no, and I volunteered as a colonel select, and they picked me. Wow. And literally on my way to the airport, we swung through the headquarters building. They frocked me onto colonel, which means I got to wear it, but I didn't get paid for it. No benefits to it. I just got to wear it, which was big, working with all the army in Baghdad. Because now I'm coming in as a colonel. And we flew down and was there for 4 months. I'll talk some more at some of those experiences, but I got to see some outstanding leaders. So the challenges, the things I got to work on, the social environment just really kept me engaged.
Yeah.
For 27 years.
That's fantastic. And so you have a wonderful story that you shared with me about your daughter, and I feel like it really illustrates influence. So set it up. You were the colonel overseeing a particular Air Force base, and take it away.
Yeah. So I came back from Baghdad in December of 2004. And then I found out that I got selected to be a mission support group commander at Offutt Air Force Base just south of Omaha in Bellevue, Nebraska. Mission support means you have the operations guy who does all the planes, you have the maintenance guy who does the maintenance of the planes, you have the medical guy, and usually the mission support group commander has everything else. Oh, wow. Now, I didn't have communications because that was headquarters strategic command was there, so they had a separate colonel, but I still had everything else. So in every building on base, there was a picture of the wing commander, the mission support group commander, the chief master sergeant. So my picture was in every building on base. And I'm a type of person, I got around to all my squadrons and I tried to meet the people. So I got to know them and they got to know my name. So we got there in June, my wife and daughter stayed in Germany. I took command, and then they came a couple weeks later as my daughter finished school. So a bunch of the kids on the row, we called it, where the generals and colonels were, they went down to the community center. And as they were playing pool, a couple airmen came in, usually security police guys, which were underneath my command. And they were having fun, and nobody was drinking. They were playing pool, and all of a sudden, I think they came over to my daughter and said, "Hey, would you like to come back to our place and continue partying or whatever?" And she let it be known that, well, I'm Georgia Gleason. And they kind of stopped. Gleason, Colonel Gleason's daughter? And they said, my daughter said yes. Then they said, and they kind of backed off. And so in some respects, my daughter was kind of like, I can't have any fun because you're always there. But at some point, she was able to use it and say, keep me out of sensitive situations.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a beautiful illustration of influence, because you weren't even there, but your influence was at work on your behalf, right? They knew your name, they knew who you were.
They knew what I stood for.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they changed their tone, and I'm sure they were not bad dudes. They didn't, but in that situation, she just was able to use that. So it's so fascinating how influence goes beyond you. Goes beyond physical presence. and into situations like that. So, well, let me ask you this, because I'd love to find out what kind of how you would define. That's a big question out there on YouTube and on the internet is, how do you define servant leadership? And so, as you being a servant leader and leading and serving in that way, I'd love your definition.
Sure. To me, it's it means a lot of things to different people. So I appreciate you asking that question, and I like what you said. It's about serving people, but servant leadership to me is about several things, and I got a couple notes I want to touch on. One is being out front. John Maxwell says leaders see more and they see before, and they see what's coming. And I got to work when I was in Baghdad with a gentleman, Major General Corelli. He was the commander of the 1st Infantry Division, ended up becoming the 4-star Deputy Chief of Staff of the Army.
Oh, wow.
But when he was a 2-star, we were in Iraq, and I met him, and he talked about his strategy of SWET, sewer, water, electricity, and trash. And that was his strategy to win the hearts and minds of the Iraqi people, to get them to be able to give us information. What was happening is we were getting our army and other forces were getting into the neighborhoods, and they were getting sabotaged, ambushed, because we didn't have the intel. So we were trying to get the intel. And he found if we can get them water and get them electricity, take away the trash and take away the sewage. And if you see the pictures, it's just incredible what the neighborhoods look like. The worst of the United States in poverty. It's terrible. Sewage in the streets, trash all over the place. No electrical
around it.
Yeah. So we started doing that, and he was able to take a map in that first hour with me. He took a map and showed neighborhood by neighborhood how we've done it and how we have gotten information and how it's saving American lives and coalition lives. And so he influenced me. He was kind of serving me by giving the strategy, seeing more, but then I was able to serve him because he challenged me then and said, hey, I need you to do a couple things. So we were in a meeting one time, and one organization and my organization were arguing about how the order of putting in electrical drops. Do we put the substation in first and then put the power line to it, or we put the power line first and then the substation? Because neither wanted to be first, because as soon as you put it in without it being powered, the Iraqi people would steal it, black market. So I spent 4 hours that night. I looked at the general, I said, I got this. I spent 4 hours that night working on an agreement. But because he had given me that vision, and he was out in front of me. I was serving him. He had won me over with his strategy. So because he cast that vision, I was now serving him. He had no direct authority over me. I didn't work for him in any way, but I saw the value of it, and we got a solution. And then, but after doing that one, he gave me another challenge. He said, I want you to link together because I'm doing facilities. So we would renovate a hospital or build a hospital, and we would turn it over to the locals. Unfortunately, the Iraqis could come in and they would just gut the building, take everything out. It would be nothing but concrete masonry block left. So he said, I need you, before you turn it over, to have the doctors and the nurses and the equipment all coming in, so it all comes in at the same time. And I said, I'm thinking, that's kind of way outside of my purview, but okay, I'll serve. I'll do whatever I can. And I talked to this Army major who controlled the medical staff. And I said, here's kind of the vision. Here's what General Trelli would like to do. And her response was, the general will get his people when I damn well give him his people.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, Major General. Okay. So I spent an hour talking his vision to her.
Yeah.
Using his influence, right? What he'd given to me, now I was able to give it to her, and she bought into it. And before I left, after 4 months, we did the first hospital with the staff and the equipment and the people and the building all coming together at the same time, and it was just fantastic. So he gave me his coin, and the general did, and it was probably the most treasured coin I have after 27 years of service. So I think one is being out front.
Yeah, so that's a great example of servant leadership works too, right? Being out front, him being out front in front of you, it actually works. It'll get you a result, and it might feel counterintuitive at times, but that being out front brings tangible results. Keep going. This is great, Don. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Second one was getting to know your people.
Okay.
One thing I did, this became more of a management thing for me, of how to manage my time. as a group commander, I could sit in my office all day long and have meeting after meeting after meeting because there were so many things we were trying to do. They would bring, everybody wanted 30 minutes to an hour of my time, and I talked this program and that program. And I quickly noticed I'd never get out to the squadron. And when I was taking over squadron command, our group commander mentor during our orientation challenged us to get out of the office 50% of the time. And I did. Wow. But it also meant that I did email and paperwork and stuff at night and at 5 a.m. to be able to keep up, which had implications on the family. And you have to balance that off. But so I was trying to do the same thing as group commanding. So I said, guys, I'm going to have meetings in your squadron. I'm going to come down. I'll give you an hour once a week. I'll give you 2 hours once a week, whatever we think we need based upon, I did an analysis of how much time I thought they needed. I said, but I want to get to your place. I want to meet your people. And said, I'm just going to schedule that on the schedule. And you can use that time as you see fit. But I also want to get out and see the people. So I would go down to Security Forces Squadron to use that, since we were talking with those airmen at the community center. And we would go out on the flight line. And they had a secure area. That's where the National Airborne Command Post is, that Secretary of Defense flies. And that's where George Bush came that night after the night of the 9/11 attacks.
Oh, okay.
He was there often. Now, I wasn't there at the time. That was 3 years prior. But so it's a very important base. Yeah. So we would go out and we would talk to the airmen at the checkpoints, and we would talk to airmen doing the security, and we'd go out on job sites with the civil engineers, and I'd walk around and talk to the people in the contracting squadron, especially on the last day of the years where they were trying to jam all this, obligate all the money. And we would buy them pizza, and we'd take a 5-minute break and talk to them a little bit. But I got to know they got to know them, and they got to know me. And I think that's part of serving as well, because if you don't know your people, you can't see into their eyes what's going right or what's going wrong. Yeah. We had a situation when I was a squadron commander up in Montana. As soon as I got there, 50 of my military deployed, and thus the spouses and families were left behind. So we had a party the Sunday before Thanksgiving. Well, that couple of days before that, the temperature had dropped. I mean, we were down below freezing. It was windy. Snow was coming. And as we got to the party, I looked at one young lady and I could tell something was wrong. You could just see it in her eyes. Yeah. Something was wrong. There was stress there. And I looked at her. I said, "Man, are you okay?" And I don't think I had met her before, but maybe once or twice. Mm-hmm. Just, kind of quickly as the guys were deploying. So I started asking her, and she wouldn't, it's typical military. Nope, everything's fine. I got it. I don't need any help. And I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So I kept watching, and then I sent my wife over to talk to her, and she got nothing. I sent my first sergeant over, got nothing. I sent my chief master sergeant over, got nothing. This is over a couple hours. Yeah. So finally, I'm grabbing some desserts, and I'm kind of right by her, and I'm kind of listening with my ear over my shoulder. And I heard her say that, yeah, the window air conditioning unit is still in the windows. The wind is just blowing right through the windows. The heat went out. Oh. It's 45, 50 degrees in the house. The kids are all sick. Nobody's sleeping. Oh, gosh. And I turned around and said, "Now I know what I can do to help you." And she's like, no, please, no, we'll take care of it next week. I said, "No, military, we're a family. We take care of each other." And I said, "I'm coming over tonight, and we're going to take that window out." And of course, my wife was right there and said, "Well, you're not going alone." So she grabbed the first sergeant and the chief and some other people. And but by the end of that night, we got the heat running, because I had my service call people, because I controlled that, had them come out. And he was more than happy to do it. That's what he lives for. Yeah. And we got the problem all fixed, got the heat on, got the window air conditioning unit out, got the windows back in. And that became a sign for me through the next 2 years of that command, because I kept seeing problems in housing, and I kept making sure we were fixing them. It was interesting. One day, my chief walked in and said, "Sir, it seems like these guys keep having parties at their houses, so they bring you over so that you can see the problems, so you get them fixed." And I said, "Well, are they problems?" And he goes, "Yes." I said, "Do they deserve to be fixed?" "Yes." I said, "Would you want that problem in your house?" And he said, "No." Yeah. I said, "Then we're going to fix whatever problems we see." I mean, we had one house that had mold in the basement growing up the walls, and I moved them out of the house. Yeah. We had sewage backup in housing, and I moved them out of the house until we fixed the problem. So, proactive stance.
Yeah, if you can't relax in your house, how can you perform at work? I mean, that's... Yeah. It's those little things, though, and that you were there, you were with your people, you were listening to them, and really serving them, meeting their needs, figuring out how you could serve them or add value to them.
That's right.
Powerful. Another wonderful example of servant leadership. Did you? I know you have. I think you have a couple more items on your list. Is that right? Or
Yeah, one was listening.
okay.
That was that.
Yes,
that was
absolutely.
that story about listening. Listening not only it was listening with your heart.
Yeah.
You can listen with your ears, but you can listen with your eyes. You can listen with your heart. And I think that's where that previous story touches on,
Yeah.
because I got to know them, but if I didn't know them, I was listening to them. And I think leadership can be about taking risks. Again, serving. So this is kind of servant leadership, but it's also taking a risk. When I was a captain in Germany the first time, we went there twice.
Okay.
So my first assignment, I was a captain, and we had a base denial plan. Base denial plan is if you are getting overrun by opposing forces, you deny them access to certain things. So you destroy, if all the vehicles are there, you destroy the same item in all the vehicles so they can't fix them. They can't use them against you. Could be rifles, could be weapons, could be all kinds of stuff that you do that. Well, we just had a major inspection and we got an unsatisfactory. And so it was my area to fix it. So I started down the path, and the wing commander assigned it instead of to this brand new captain. He gave it to a senior major in the supply squadron. And after about a year, I was checking up because we hadn't heard anything. And I talked to her. We were about 6 months out from the next inspection. I said, "Ma'am, where are we on that?" And she goes, "It's not my job. I'm not doing it." I said, "Ma'am, but the wing commander gave that to you. That's your task. I mean, this is an unsat from the previous inspection." She goes, "I don't care. I'm not doing it."
Wow.
So I called over to security forces. We met their team. We had a meeting. We were having a meeting that morning of all the base kind of working. We called it the base defense working group. Yeah. So we came up with an idea. We were going to present it to the team. We actually walked into the vice wing commander's office and said, "Sir, we need your help." We laid down the idea for him, and he said, "Thanks for taking that on. I didn't know that wasn't being worked. I'll take care of that separately, but thank you for picking it up and running with it. And yes, I will certainly talk to your group this morning and endorse the plan you have." And then I went back after that meeting. I went back after lunch and briefed my squadron commander and my boss of what I had done that morning, thinking he could be pretty ticked off since I didn't bring him in the loop. But he was one. I knew he was one that would just let me run with the ball and take risks, and as long as I had the right idea in mind. Serving the base. Because part of the problem was if you got a second unsat, the person who was responsible, me, my boss, squadron commander, the group commander, the wing commander, all got to take a trip down and stand in front of the 4-stars desk and explain why we didn't get it fixed.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, none of them wanted to do it. I didn't want to do it. So so we got the problem fixed. We got a satisfactory. So I think all of those, a leader's out front. A leader gets to know people. A leader listens with your heart.
Yeah.
I think a leader is about taking risks for the right reasons to do the right things. And that to me kind of puts into servant leadership as well.
That's so good. And the listening part, I think that's not just a skill, but it's an attitude. It's because what you demonstrated was, okay, you had the skill set, you kind of listen and you notice that this woman was not, something wasn't right. You saw something in her eyes. You used the skill of listening. You asked the question, you listened. She said no, but there was an attitude that said, I got to continue with this thing. I got to figure out and solve the problem, and listen to what's not being said or what's not being said to me. And that is really where you got the breakthrough. That I think that's powerful for everybody to know that you can't fake servant leadership. You either have a heart to serve the people or you're not, and you're going to be more transactional, and that is what it is. And there's plenty of leaders that are transactional in their approach, but servant leadership it's different, and it has a heart attitude to serve the people, add value, and listen beyond the first response. So I think powerful examples of servant leadership in the workplace, and really kind of lining it out, what it looks like, and what it is. I do want to ask you before we go, because I know that that we have some time constraints, and you've got some business you have to attend to. But what if people want to engage with you? They want to. I mean, I think people need to bring you in to come and speak on servant leadership for sure. They need to bring you into their organization, the nonprofit world for sure, with your Red Cross, with your different military, helping serve military folks in that way. But you have a huge background in business as well in consulting. How can people connect with you, and what kind of ways can you serve organizations or individuals?
Yeah. So a couple thoughts there. One, it was kind of interesting after 37 years, and because I did 27 years Air Force, then 9 years management consulting. And as I said, God taken me on a totally different journey than I ever would have anticipated when I was studying water and wastewater in college, getting my bachelor's degree. And because I wanted to run a wastewater treatment plant, that's kind of what the stuff I wanted to do. This has been so much more, but God put it on my heart throughout all of that. I've had some great mentors come to me. I remember a gentleman, Master Sergeant Hicks, when I was at my first base and I was a second lieutenant, and he grabbed me aside and he gave me some mentoring about how to get to know my people, how to listen to people, how to do a lot of that stuff. So it really spurred me on through my entire career to focus on leadership. And what was leadership? Leadership isn't management. Management is about processes. You're managing systems and processes. You lead people. You don't manage people. You lead people. And we do those things that we just talked about. You get to know them. You help them overcome their challenges. You help them grow. You help them achieve their goals. So when I got done with that 36, 37 years, God put it on my heart to change my direction. And I was on a project traveling every week for 4 years to Amarillo, out of San Antonio to Amarillo, and then up to Oak Ridge, Tennessee, back and forth. And I finally said, time out, enough with that. And got in with the John Maxwell team. I happened to be walking on the Saturday after Thanksgiving in 2014, and I had seen a Facebook ad on John Maxwell team, and I punched it and said, yeah, call me. And the guy called me up and said, hey, would you like can we talk? And I said, yeah, I'm walking for another hour. You have a captive audience, let's talk. And about a month later, I joined because I wanted to research it. And it's really meshed so well with me because I love the leadership piece, and I understand a lot about it. And I think people always told me that I was one of the better Air Force leaders, but I still had so much more to learn, and John's books helps me put it in a lot of context. I mean, the 21 irrefutable laws, where you talk about you got to have that law of victory before you start the law of momentum. If you can't get that first victory, but then you've got to win the heart. You can't ask for a hand until you touch their heart. And so it goes back to the listening piece, right? As soon as I started doing that kind of stuff when I was a squadron commander to fix problems in base housing, anytime I needed something, especially from their squadrons, boy, they were more than ready to help me because I had already shown I'm willing to help them.
Yeah, that's
so that translates right into organizations today. And I want to work with medium and large size businesses.
Okay.
And work with their leaders to help them grow and really understand what it means to be a servant leader, to have that vision, to be listening to help their people with problems. Because it's not just about giving tasks and managing the tasks. That's management. It's about leading. It's about getting to know their people and growing them. But you got to, if you don't know who they are and what they want to do, you can't tell them. People would come to me and when I was in the military and say, hey, what's the path to colonel? I said, there is no path to colonel. Your path will be totally different than his path and different than my path. Here's the things that we can do that are similar, and we would grow. So helping the leaders understand how to do that. So I focus a lot. I really focus in on coaching. I really enjoy the one-on-one helping people with coaching questions, get them to think in their situation. What are the challenges? Bringing them some resources. So I mix it with some mentoring. You can see all these different books back here that I'm on the journey to read and utilize. And my coach, I have a coach, and she helps me with this. I'm just reading the book. It's on the floor behind me, Crucial Conversations. I'm leading.
Just finished that one as well.
Yeah, through the Society of American Military Engineers, the San Antonio Post. I'm the co-director of the Leadership Lab. And we are in the midst of studying the book Crucial Conversations. We have a meeting tomorrow, and we're finishing about the second third of the book. And they all just love it, but be able to bring that kind of material to any coaching client to help them with conversations with situations at work. We talk about the DISC profile. That's been one of my bigger areas of business this year because, again, it helps you understand what that personality is, both yourself and the other person in front of you. And you can change the way you communicate, the way you sell, the way you do a lot of things based upon what their natural style is. So helping them understand that, I think, and bring those tools is the real area that I want to work with people. But obviously I do training, and we call it masterminds in some respects. A mastermind is a like group of people moving toward a like goal. One thing I'm serving in on is, as you mentioned, on military veterans. I have a passion for military and transitioning out of the service to a civilian job. Could be civil service, government job, state job, could be a nonprofit, could be a corporate, could be their entrepreneur, whichever.
Yeah.
But helping them through that process. And a lot of people are struggling in that process. And they go to event after event after event after event. Some people have been to 12 different events to learn. I did 2. I did the executive TAP transition assistance program twice and developed my plan and started working on it. And I was blessed to find the right company and I had 9 years with them. But I knew what I wanted to do. And most people don't know what they want to do, and they don't know how to write a resume, and they don't know how to do other things. And I'm not into teaching how to write a resume, but I can give them some advice and help guide them through. So I'm looking to create a mastermind where instead of just doing events, I should use one hand, event after event after event. I want to build a bridge. I want to bring continuity across a group of people, 6 to 8 people who are going through transition about the same time, and be their guide. Help them walk through that process, help them define what they want to do, what they can do in terms of the process, create some goals, some clear things that they want to do with dates, and then have the team help them be accountable to that process, because otherwise it's too easy to let that slide because you're still at work trying to finish off your career, right? And you want to finish strong, but you also have to be focusing in on your next career because at some point you're going to get out and you need a job. Unless you're financially wealthy, you're going to need that second job. So helping them be ready. So this has been a new idea we just came up with before Christmas, and we're getting a lot of positive response on it. And I got a big journey to make it happen, but I'm building a team around me.
That's great. And so I'm going to have all of your contact information. I really encourage you listening to this to follow, connect with Don on LinkedIn, Facebook, follow him and see what he's doing. Now that mastermind, is that in person only in San Antonio area, or is there? Oh
no. In fact, I have a big vision. So we're going to start, I think we're going to do Zoom video. If they want to do in person, I will get them to a spot for San Antonio folks. But there's a lot of people getting out in San Diego and Hampton, Virginia, in Omaha, Nebraska. So how do we link them together? So this could be one where I need other coaches to help me through the process. I did want to touch on one thing, the name of my company, Achieve New Heights. I had this vision of helping people climb the mountain, and you'll see in my card on the logo and on my website, picture of 2 mountains. And I wanted to put people climbing up the mountain, but we couldn't make it really look good. But the piece is still there. I want them to help, I want to work with leaders to grow themselves and their team so that they can achieve new heights in their performance. So that's why when somebody asks, why new heights, achieve new heights? That's the vision that I had, is to help people achieve new heights in their performance. Get better, become the better person of yourself tomorrow, and then the next day and the next day. That's so great. You have a vision, and now you're executing on the vision, and that's really your message for folks in transition, really all folks out there, and if you're not in the military, I have a strategic coaching program video, free webinar that I'll put in the cards here that you can watch and get some guidance. Take 30 minutes, like Don was saying, take some time, sit down, figure out your plan. Don has his vision of leading people to achieve new heights. And now he's doing it. He's executing on it. And so it's powerful in whatever transition you find yourself in to really take the time to pause, take a time out, and come up with a plan and a strategy of where you want to go, really define it. And then you can start persevering towards it and working toward definiteness of purpose is what Napoleon Hill called it. Yeah. You can't do anything. You're not going to persist at anything unless you're very clear and definite on what it is that you want to do. So
Yeah, go ahead.
John talks about you have to lead your life, not accept your life.
Mm,
And I wanted to believe that I led my life
yeah.
through my career, but I also saw where I just came in, read emails, went to meetings, did taskings, and then
Mm,
went home. And I wasn't always leading my life. And as I talk to a lot of leaders in companies, could be C-suite executives or just leaders at the division level, a lot of them struggle with what are my priorities that I should be working on today, and how do I fit those priorities into my schedule, and how do I manage all the distractions. And I love Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants. What should I do and what should I not do? What should I delegate?
yeah.
The urgent and important, 4
Yeah.
boxes. I use that a lot. So I'm spending a lot of time. I'm, I'm talking this week to the San Antonio West Chamber, to their members, on prioritization management, achieving the life you want to have. I'm going to start a live launch program talking about that, because I think it's so important. If you, like you said, if you don't know what you want to do,
Mm,
then every day you just get in and do what everybody else wants. But if you
yeah.
know what you want to do, if you look at your life and say, these are the things I want to have, I want my physical body to be in shape. This is what I have to do. I want my family relationship to be good. This is what I have to do. I want my spiritual life to be good. This is what I want to do. Now I want my work life. Now I can balance those off and try to live in harmony and figure it out. Because what I see too often is, I want to get promoted at work, so I'll put 80 hours a week in, and I'll sacrifice my family, I'll sacrifice my spiritual, I'll sacrifice my physical body, and I gain weight. And then at age 60, you say, oh,
I'm not where I want to be.
not where I want to be. So how can we move that through? And it's a challenge. I mean, I won't say it's easy. I won't say that I got it all together, but I've certainly walked through a lot of the challenges.
That's great.
And I've got a lot that I want to teach people. Again, achieve new heights in their
Yeah.
performance, not just at work, but
And you're doing it.
life.
And you find a way. I've watched your life and been around you, that you find a way to do both and work towards your dream and also live your dream at the same time. Live what you want to do. You do different activities and hobbies with your wife that you have, and
We love to go camping.
Yeah,
Bird watching.
Bird watching, exactly. And then you're physically, you're engaged in physical activity regularly, and so
Daily.
yeah. So there is a way that you can do it, and so I want to encourage you to connect with Don. If you're looking for that kind of balance in your life, you've got an expert leader with all the experience you could ever want. That is really also going to be a place where sometimes these C-suite folks, they don't feel comfortable talking to people, and they want to kind of hide their shortcomings. Don is one of the easiest people you can talk to, and he's not going to judge you, but he is going to challenge you to go to those new heights. And so, Don, thank you so much for
Thank you.
being on the YouTube channel today and allowing me to interview you and sharing your wisdom and your insights and really defining for us what it means to be a servant leader. So thank you so much, Don. And I'll look forward to talking to you next week in our mastermind group.
Sounds great. I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for inviting me, and appreciate you letting me share some of my stories, because I think I've got the right perspective being a colonel and working with generals to help people at the C-suite. But like you say, I try to be the guy who can talk at all levels. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate what you're doing.
You bet. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
If you found value from this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. To receive the free influence assessment, simply click on the link below that says Influence Assessment. If you have any questions or comments about influence, please comment below and I will look forward to connecting with you. Always remember, increase your influence, realize your dream.